When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject: Fun Train. User: SteamDig2. Posted June 11th, 1996.
I love trains, always have. When I was a kid, I used to pester my dad to take me down to the 16th Street station to watch those big old Southern Pacific AC-10 steam locomotives come in. The diesel engines we roll now are beauties, don't get me wrong, but there's something about those cab-forward steam designs. Even now, with all of them decommissioned, they still feel like the future to me. It's been more than 30 years since my career on the rails began, and God willing, I'll be granted 30 more. As much as I loved watching them as a kid, it's nothing compared to driving them. The hum of the engine, the click-clack of the passing train, the swaying of the cars, it's like a lullaby taking you into a beautiful dream. Not bad for a paying gig, right? The thing I never expected is how much a conductor learns about the world as he's passing through it. For instance, more often than not, I get the call to run what they call the Fun Train out to Reno. It's a 15-car-long mobile party for almost 700 people that runs from the Bay Area during the winter. It's got it all: booze, dancing, a piano lounge car. You'd think that would be enough to keep people entertained, and yet every year the porters, like poor Eddie in number 8, catch people getting up to funny business in what they think are secluded corners of the train. Trust me when I say this, if you're ever on a train and think you found a place to get away with something, you haven't. The people who work that dragon know every inch of it, with an emphasis on places where they think people might try to join what they call the clickety-clack club. None of those amorous adventurers have ever made it as far as the engine, so my knowledge of that world comes secondhand. What I see up front, though, that's firsthand knowledge, and it might actually be weirder than what's going on in the back. Departure times from Emeryville vary depending on the day, but whenever you leave, it's a guarantee that by the time you're rolling through the Sierras, the sun has long gone down. Out there in the country, the only light comes from the moon. When the snow is fresh, it reflects and amplifies that moonlight until you can see for what feels like miles. Sometimes I think the feeling of rolling through all that empty countryside must be a little like what astronauts experience. Out that window, amid all the lodgepole and Jeffrey Pines, I've seen all kinds of animals: bears, mule deer, coyotes, and I've seen other things too. Those things aren't as easy to classify, and frankly, some of them just don't make any sense at all. For example, on my very first trip with the Fun Train, we were in the middle of the big climb, which runs a few thousand feet up before cresting the mountain, when I saw a man. That on its own isn't so strange. Lord knows there's a lot of us men running around out there, but what made this so bizarre is that this man was in the middle of an unbroken snow plain. There are no roads, no houses, no human habitation of any kind, yet there he was, plain as day, wearing what must have been a black suit. Even though it was too dark to see his face, I could feel him tracking our progress up the grade. I waved almost reflexively, since there was no way the far-off man could possibly see me. He returned the greeting with a single raised hand. In the years since then, the High Sierras have shown me a lot of secrets, things only other railroaders know about. I could tell you 1,000 stories, but I'm going to restrict myself to just one. Who knows, maybe someday I'll want to write a book, and where will I be if I've already given away the goods? It was another December, this one in 1989. It had been a rough year for a lot of reasons, not least of which was the Loma Prieta earthquake. 60-some people killed, thousands more injured, and my beloved 16th Street station damaged beyond repair. Those long, snowy trips outside the city were a welcome escape from the world. On this run in particular, we'd had an easy go of it, and once we got an hour out of Sacramento, my engineer Barry went to hit the head. There's one particular section of the trip where the tracks run alongside a deep valley, at the bottom of which is the rusted-out, roofless hulk of a school bus. I couldn't tell you how, why, or when it got there, just that it's become the way I measure how high the snow is getting. Up to the wheels, white winter. Up to the windows, white Christmas. When the bus is covered completely, you know it's going to be a tough run through to spring. On this trip, the snow was wheel-high, so I thought the hairy thing rummaging around inside its steel frame was a bear looking for supper. Then, when the train was fully alongside the wreck, the animal straightened up. Friends, it was no bear. Bears get big, sure, but do they get so big they can stand up in a busted-out school bus with their whole torso above the roofline? I don't think so. What it looked like was an ape, if apes grew to be about 10 feet tall and did a lot of weightlifting. Its whole body was thickly muscled in a way I've never seen on a wild animal. If that bus wasn't already missing its top, I'd believe this thing could have peeled it open like a tin of sardines. The creature's eyes were the most unsettling part, red and alert, assessing us. It opened its mouth in a grimace, baring its fangs. Before I could see any more, the train had gone far enough that the wreck was no longer visible. Barry got back not long after, and I told him what I'd seen. He nodded and poured himself another cup of coffee from his thermos. We'd seen so many strange things on that route, this barely registered. Just another night on the fun train.
Subject, operators are standing by. User, Conalt013. Posted, August 12, 1997.
I woke up in someone else's house today. It looked just like mine. The bedroom had the same cheap brown carpet we kept meaning to replace, a ceramic Garfield figure, a hula girl we picked up on our trip to Hawaii, the crystal dolphin Cheryl's mother bought at some garage sale. All the knickknacks on the living room sideboard hadn't changed. The coffee brewing in the kitchen smelled the way it always did, so I poured some into my favorite mug and sat at the kitchen table. Through the window next to me, I heard my neighbor Jerry in his garage sawing away at some home improvement project he'd probably never finish. Everything was the same, and yet it was all wrong, like a set of clothes made to your exact measurements that still don't fit. My heartbeat was elevated. I placed a palm against my chest and felt its too fast rhythm. To try and shake the feeling, I went out onto the front lawn where passing cars and Sunday morning walkers made for a comfortingly normal scene. I took deep breaths, holding each one for a 3 count before exhaling slowly. It was no use. Despite the bright December morning, an imperceptible shadow had crept in between me and the rest of the world. Grayness stole in at the edges, all the snow-covered beauty in front of me souring, becoming brittle. My wife's car wasn't in the driveway. Where was Cynthia? At once, I needed and feared her. Needed because she has always been my fixed point in a chaotic world. Feared because I was afraid she, too, would be alien to me. Othered. Inside the house, the telephone rang, sounding further away than it should have. Everything was too distant and claustrophobic at the same time. With a final look around the harsh snowscape, I hid back in the house. The phone, a cheap piece of cream-colored beige plastic from Radio Shack, was sitting where it was supposed to be, on the side table between our recliners. The sound it made was discordant, setting my teeth on edge. I tried willing it to stop ringing, stared intently in the vain hope all the strangeness may have had the side effect of gifting me with telekinesis. Instead, the device seemed to get louder and more shrill, insistent that I pick it up immediately. Slowly and with great reluctance, I did just that. Mr. Kilgore. The voice at the other end was deep and assured, far more certain of itself than I have ever been. It was also the only part of the morning not full of poison familiarity. This was a voice I'd never heard before. Something deep inside me suggested it would have been better to keep it that way. Mr. Kilgore, are you there? I couldn't speak. My heart was frantic, trip hammer beating against a ribcage prison. My pajama shirt was sticking to me, soaked through with sweat. You're there. Don't worry, Mr. Kilgore. It'll all be over soon. Operators are standing by. A click. Silence. I dropped the phone like it had suddenly become red hot, the plastic handset banging down on the table, bouncing off into the side of my knee. Pain flared. I cursed loudly without any of the satisfaction it would ordinarily bring, then rubbed at the joint in an attempt to stave off the inevitable limp. It was useless effort, the stiffening already setting in. An errant thought crossed my overheated mind. What did he mean by operators are standing by? I collapsed down into Cynthia's recliner. I took a deep breath, intending to hold it for a 3 count. I made it as far as 2 before the world came apart. A violent crunching sound erupted from the china cabinet to the left of the television, followed by an explosion of glass. Instinctively, I turned away from the carnage, wrenching my already damaged knee. I winced and inhaled a lungful of ceramic dust from our shattered crockery. Had I the air, I would have screamed, because from the destroyed remains of the cabinet emerged 3 wiry, ape-like creatures with black eyes the size of saucers. Even if I had been able to move quickly, it would have been wasted effort. They were on me in a matter of seconds, ripping and tearing. Claws slashed first my slick pajama shirt to ribbons, then the skin beneath it. Oddly, I was the calmest I'd been since waking up. Finally, a catastrophe had presented itself. I saw gray fur matted with blood. My blood, I realized. There was a wet, snapping sound as if someone had stomped on bunch celery. My ribs. That meant... woke up in bed. My bed. And this time it felt like it. There was the briefest of aches in my chest, gone so quickly it may not have even happened at all. I reached down and touched my knee. No blood, no bruise, not even a hint of tenderness. Rising, I peeked into the living room to find the china cabinet in one piece, the sideboard knickknacks all present and accounted for. The air felt still. Opening the front door, I watched the world go by, passing cars and Sunday morning walkers. There was no grayness, no shadow between me and the splendor of the day. I shook my head in both relief and embarrassment of all the stupid nightmares to have. In the middle of pouring my first cup of coffee, the phone rang. I started, narrowly avoiding slopping hot coffee on my hand. It rang for a second time, a third, a fourth. On the fifth ring, our answering machine picked up, and I heard our pre-recorded greeting play, followed by the tone. Mr. Kilgore. The world shrank down until it was only me and the voice. Mr. Kilgore, you're home now. Our apologies for the confusion. It won't happen again. The line went dead.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.